Hello everyone, this is Simon Powers at Classical Guitar Corner. Thank you for all of the lovely comments that were received on the YouTube video from last week. So this is my fireside chat, which I do inside the CGC Academy each week. And seeing as many of you liked it on YouTube, I'll do another one until you tell me to stop. I ended the last video with a performance of one of the studies that I wrote for the recent curriculum addition to grade 2. I'll play you another one today. Before that, I wanted to say that this is the last chance if you want to join the CGC Summer School, which is running from the 9th to the 15th of June in Beverly, Massachusetts, which is just outside of Boston. We have Hao Yang, Petra Palachkova, Ko Kazama, Thomas Flippen as our guest artists. We've got about 50 guitarists, students coming in from all over the world to join in on ensembles and lessons and performances. It's going to be a really great week. This is the 6th time that we've run this, and it's just going to be another great week in a beautiful spot. For those of you who've come to the summer school before, you know it's in a really stunning campus, college campus, right by the ocean there in Beverly, Massachusetts. So if you would like to join, go to classicalguitarcorner.com/summer. The registration is probably going to be closing the end of this week. It's May 6th right now because it starts June 9th, so we're really getting close now. All right, I promised you a performance. So this is study number 8 from the 13 studies that I wrote for grade 2 in the Cornerstone method. And this study is focusing on second position playing, but also more specifically finger alignment in the left hand. That is the ability to play a note on a string and clear the next string, the next adjacent string. So here it is. I really enjoy writing these little studies. What's helpful in the compositional context is that I have a purpose. You know, I have a lesson that's already been decided upon. I've taught some exercises, and then I have my marching orders in terms of, okay, we're going to be in second position, and we're focusing on this particular technical element. So, you know, there's barres, and there's slurs, and there's ties, and syncopations, etc. So, yeah, I really enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy the studies. People asked in the last video, where can I get study number 13 and perhaps this study number 8? Well, they're all inside the Academy at the moment, available to all the members in the grade 2 curriculum. Just download them underneath the lessons they're attached to. I will eventually publish a grade 2 Cornerstone method, but I like to have the materials inside the Academy for at least 6 months, just so people can go through the materials. I can get feedback on them and know if everything's well placed. As I'm coming up with all these materials, I obviously draw upon 2 decades of experience, but there's nothing like finding out how it actually feels to the students and any issues that come up, any difficulty, challenges, etc. So I'm always trying to create material in that Goldilocks zone, which means achievable, but still pushing the student from where they just were in the lesson before, just pushing each time, having that little bit of challenge without feeling frustrated. That is the virtue of Classical Guitar Corner Academy, is that it's so structured and progressive like that, that we avoid that frustration that can come from surfing the internet or just working on material that's too difficult. Anyway, I digress. This week, we had a wonderful seminar which opened up our member challenge for the month of May on practice. And we started out referencing this. So this is, I don't know if I ever talked about this on classical on the YouTube channel, but this is the book that I wrote. It came out last year. I worked on it for about 5 years, maybe even more. I'm not sure. It just felt like a long time. But there's a whole chapter on practice. And so we're referencing this book as we go through the month. And the first section was on practicing technique. So there's practicing repertoire, there's practice toolkit, practice routines, building those, etc. There's also the other big sections are performance, which talks about things like memorization, preparation, stage craft and stage fright, musicianship, phrasing, analysis, dynamics, etc. Learning, self-taught guitarist, online schools, approaches to learning, etc. This is a labor of love. You can get that at Classical Guitar Corner, or I think it's on Amazon also, the Kindle. In any case, we started there in our discussion recently inside the Academy talking about practicing technique. And we covered some fundamentals of practice theory, I'll call it. Then we went on to sort of the challenge for this week, which involves taking music that you're working on and putting on your teacher's hat instead of just playing through it and practicing it like normal. So what we did is we took a passage. In this case, well, this week I used the opening to Bach's Violin Sonata. And I played through the whole passage. And we listed all of the different techniques that are present. So for example, here, a rolled chord, then campanella fingering, slurs, vibrato, all the different things. You could even get as fundamental as sitting position, right and left hand position. What goes into making a piece of music? Those are all techniques that can be identified and can be worked on. What's getting in the way of music if it's not coming out the way you want to? That's really the ultimate goal of technique, is to express yourself freely, to not have any barriers, any technical barriers that get in your way. So ideally, your technique should become transparent, and just listening to the music should be the focus, ideally. So to get to that place and to start thinking a bit differently about practice, rather than just saying, I'm going to practice this passage and repeat it until I get it right, the challenge this week is to take a piece of music that you are already playing and record yourself, sit down with the score and the recording, put the guitar down. It's probably the biggest part of it. I mean, how many minutes out of your practice week do you think you spend without the guitar in your hands? Probably very few, if any. Sit down without the guitar in your hands, review the video of your playing, start to list down all of the elements that are in that piece. What's going on? What's the makeup of that piece in terms of technique? There might be rest strokes, there might be slurs, there might be cross-string trills. List them all down. Then start to identify what's working and what needs work. And when you have that list of what needs work, there's your marching orders for practice. Take that list, rank it in terms of importance. What's going to impact the music the most? Or perhaps what's the most fundamental? It could be rhythm. It could be tone quality. It could be phrasing. And lower down, that things that are less perhaps impactful might be a singular shift or a buzz you identified, not so impactful to the whole piece, just one particular moment. Then take that top tier element, that technique, maybe the top 2 or 3 if you have time, and use that as your technique work for the week. You can either devise exercises that work on that technical issue, or you can find any of a myriad of exercises either available in the CGC Academy technique library, or perhaps you already know some. Now, knowing some, that sort of touches on a question that Ken asked in the live session, which is, if you're a student, how do you know how to diagnose a problem? You don't know what you don't know. And it's a really great point. And there will be some friction there, I'll say, in this process. Of course, a teacher, an experienced teacher, is very quick and has a lot of experience diagnosing issues. I can see that this is the problem. In fact, you might even expect it in a piece. You've taught a piece many times before, you know this tends to happen. Rhythms, for example. But because, pretty much everybody that I talk to is an adult. There might be some young people out there in YouTube, and welcome. But almost everyone I work with is an adult. And so you have a lot of experience in other parts of your life, either as a student in other fields or your profession. You might be a teacher yourself, maybe not of music, but you've taught things. So you have a lot of skills that you bring to bear in this process. And I think just by going through this, sitting down without the guitar, starting to be more objective about what's going on in your playing, you will first of all, and most importantly, become aware of a lot of things you perhaps were not aware of. And that in itself is a great boon. Then from there, I think, albeit not everything can you diagnose, you'll be able to pick up a great deal of things. Let's say 70 or 80% of issues going on, you might be able to identify. From there, coming up with exercises to deal with it, that does take a bit of practice and a sort of a library of knowledge from past experience. But you can, as a member of the Academy, you can access the technique library, and there'll be a lot of lessons that focus on specific techniques, and then you can just pluck some of those exercises that will be appropriate for the music that you're playing. What I wouldn't advocate is to repeat passages in your music, the actual piece, over and over and over again, because that can become quite mechanical. And your fingers will play whatever you repeat to them with consistency. So if you repeat something somewhat mindlessly, just playing along with a metronome, your performance risks becoming a bit mechanical. So I like to work on the technique away from the repertoire, devise an exercise or use one of the many common exercises that you come across, and then reintegrate the technique back into the piece. So that's the challenge for this week. Over the course of the month, we're going to be looking at then practicing repertoire, so how to learn a piece, and then practice routines, of which that was one of my very first publications, the 20 practice routines. So building your own practice routine, what does that involve? And then finally, practice tools. So, practice tools, there are many ones that people talk about. Slow practice, that's probably the most talked about one, where we have an approach, a specific approach in practice that can yield certain results. And I'll be talking about quite a number of them that you can apply to your practice. So we're doing these live sessions on Zoom in the Academy every weekend. And then Dave will be doing office hours twice a week, I believe. And then doing some open mics where you can start to practice and see what your results have been. So even if you haven't started the member challenge, you can feel free to join in on all of the other live sessions, and you can get started on the challenge as well. The whole point here is to help you ultimately, and I believe as a teacher, one of the goals that are really quite important is to teach you to be able to teach yourself. So have that teacher hat on. I will say the risk you run is that when you start putting that teacher hat on regularly, which I have on constantly, it does sometimes take a bit of the joy out of watching people perform, because I can't help but analyze what's going on. Left-hand technique, right-hand technique, musical choices. Have you been practicing this way? The rhythms, etc. Even when I watch professional performers in concert, I can't help but sort of break that down. Every now and then you just get that beautiful concert where it transcends and you get to just enjoy the music. But more often than not, I've got that teacher hat on. I will say that that's why I listen to a lot of other music outside of classical guitar, because it just means I get to enjoy music in its pure, and I am in my more ignorant form, so not knowing what's going on in the music perhaps. And then I get to relax and enjoy it. But with classical guitar, that is not the case. It's always got the teacher hat on. Thank you for your time and attention. I'll keep doing these on YouTube until you tell me to stop. If you don't like them, I can just go back to our normal programming. But thank you for all the kind comments and the support. Appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.